Hey everybody, welcome to the Zoom meeting about the incorporation of Cutting Edge Computer Repair. I'm going to go over the Articles of Incorporation, the application for authority to do business in a second state, and the corporate bylaws. First, I'm going to go over the Articles of Incorporation, which I have pulled up here. Okay, I pulled this straight from the Secretary of State's website. And first I'm going to go over this $100 filing fee. We can pay that fee online by submitting a credit card or debit card. But the online filing includes a convenience fee, so I would suggest that we just mail it to Snodgrass Tower in Nashville and make the check payable to the Tennessee Secretary of State. But first we got to go over and get this approved before we can file it. So the name of the corporation is Cutting Edge Computer Repair, Inc. And as noted here, the name does indeed have Inc. So we comply with this statute. This statute also notes that the name must be distinguishable in the state. So I ran a business entity search on the Secretary of State's website, and I couldn't find any other corporations with this name or that even came close to this name. So I think we're good with our name being distinguishable. And because of that, I did not check this box because this entity name does not already exist in Tennessee, so we did not have to get consent from any existing entities. Section 3 I left blank because I was not aware of any additional designation that the company had, so I can fill this in if it does have an additional designation. After this meeting, I can fill in that blank. Okay. Bradley, I have you listed as the initial registered agent with the address that you provided me as the initial registered office. Let's see. Section 5, the fiscal year close month I have listed as December because on the instructions for filling out this form on the Secretary of State's website, December was listed as the default end of fiscal year, and since you didn't provide another month, I assumed you wanted December as the fiscal year close. I have this box marked for perpetual period of duration as noted by you, the clients. Okay, this I left blank because I'm assuming you guys want want this to be effective once we file it. But if you don't want it to be effective upon filing, you can pick a date and I will put it in here, but it cannot exceed 90 days from the day that we file it. Okay, Section 7 speaks for itself. Section 8, the number of shares of stock the corporation is authorized to issue is 10,000, as noted by you. Here I have the complete principal executive office address, 123 Main Street, Memphis, Tennessee, 38103, County, Shelby. I have both of your emails listed here as the business emails. Okay, the submitter information, I have Belinda. Section 10 I left blank because you didn't provide a different address. So I'm assuming the mailing address is the same as the principal office, which I had listed above as 123 Main Street. Here I have both of your names, Cynthia and Bradley, here as the incorporators with the addresses that you provided me for you guys. Professional corporation, I don't think computer repair is not a professional corporation. It doesn't require a license to be a computer repair person. I found that out by going to this website here, and it actually lists what professions do require a license in Tennessee. So I'll pull that up. They're all right here, accountancy. I won't go through it, but as you can see, computer repair is not listed here. And so according to statute, this statute 48-101-607, we're only required to list ourselves as a professional corporation if it requires a license to do computer repair, and as we just saw, it doesn't require a license to do computer repair, so I did not check this blank. Section 13 I left blank. Didn't know of any other provisions. Okay, so if this gets approved after this meeting, I can print it and you guys can sign and date, and then we can either e-file or mail it. And I believe that covers everything about the articles. Just so you know, I did make sure that all of these complied with Tennessee Code Annotated 48-12-102, which pretty much lists out all of the statutes for the charter. So we complied with this. Corporate name, number of shares, street address of initial registered agent, and office, name and address of each incorporator is on there. Street address of initial principal office we had. Mailing address was the same, so I assumed was the same. Okay, so that covered all, all of this was on the charter, which was required to be on the charter. So I think that covers everything about the charters. Okay, next I'm going to go over this application for a certificate of authority to do business in a second state. And as you guys noted, you wanted to do business in Arkansas, so I've filled out this application for authority that I pulled straight from the Arkansas Secretary of State's website. Okay, so this form was pretty easy, so this won't take long to go over this. The name of the corporation, Cutting Edge Computer Repair, Inc., and the fictitious name to be used in Arkansas is the same. I ran a business entity search on the Arkansas Secretary of State's website, and the name is available for use. So we're good on using the same name in Arkansas as in Tennessee. And the name is available. So the state under whose laws the corporation was incorporated, Tennessee. I left the date of incorporation blank because we haven't filed our charter yet, so we are not incorporated, and I don't know what that date will be, so I left it blank. The period of duration is perpetual, as noted by you guys. The nature of the business of the corporation, computer repair. Okay, the general office or place of business in Arkansas, I have the 123 Main Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, 72201. The name and address of the registered agent of the corporation, I have set up CT Corporation. They're a pretty common registered agent used by that are used by lots of corporations. So I have everything set up for CT Corporation to be y'all's registered agent in Arkansas. And here I have their address listed. Okay, the address of the general office or principal place of business, I have the 123 Main Street, Memphis address listed here. Number and par value of shares. So the number of shares, 10,000, no par value. Okay, the foreign corporation shall deliver with the completed application a certificate of existence duly authorized by the Secretary of State or other official having custody of corporate records in the state under whose country or under whose law is incorporated. So we need to file our charter in Tennessee and get a certificate of existence before we can file this application for authority in Arkansas. And the filing fee to file this, once we have our charter filed in Tennessee, the filing fee in Arkansas is $300. in accordance with Arkansas Code Annotated 427-102. And that code also lists that there is a $12 processing fee when the filing fee is $300 or more. But that processing fee is only if we e-file. So, like in Tennessee, I would suggest that we just mail this application to this address made out to the Arkansas Secretary of State in order to avoid any processing fees. Okay, let's see, where was I? Okay, so once this is approved, we can print this and have one of you sign it or both of you sign it, and we will date it at that time. This was attached to the application, corporate franchise tax. In order for this corporation to receive its annual corporate franchise tax reporting form, please fill this out and file with the office at the time of incorporation. Okay, so corporate name listed here, and the contact person I have as Cynthia because she was listed as the chief financial officer, so I was assuming she would be the one who wanted to receive the corporate franchise tax reporting form, but I can change that to Brad if you would prefer. So I have, as of now, I have Cynthia's name and address and email address and telephone number on here. And if that's how you want it, then she will need to sign this form. And I think that covers the application to do business in Arkansas. Okay, guys, lastly, I'm going to go over the corporate bylaws. And I found a kind of a form for these bylaws online, and I will provide you a link to that. I made the applicable changes to, make it consistent with what you guys wanted and with the state statutes. Honestly, Miss Murphy, I'm going to need a little help on some of these to make sure, to finding the statutes to make sure that everything here complies. I did my best to make as many margin notes as possible to kind of help you make sure that this complies with statutes, but this is just a rough draft, and some of these sections I couldn't find statutes, so Mrs. Murphy, this is going to require a little attention from you to make sure that this draft I have here complies with all the statutes. But I'm going to go through it and let you see what I have. So the corporate bylaws of Cutting Edge Computer Repair, Inc., incorporated in the state of Tennessee. Article 1, Corporate Authority. So I have the Cutting Edge Computer Repair, Inc. name here. Duly authorized to do business in Tennessee, and I will fill this in once we file our articles of organization. And as complies with statute, I have what title, the statutes, that the bylaws are organized under Title 48, which is the applicable Tennessee Code Annotated Statute title. Offices, registered office and registered agent, Bradley, and his address as provided by you guys are listed here. And then other offices. The corporation may also have offices at other such places, both within and without the state of Tennessee, as the board of directors may time and time determine, or the business of the corporation may comply. So I have that here because y'all will have an Arkansas corporate office or place of business. Okay, meetings of shareholders. So, annual meetings. Each year the corporation shall hold an annual meeting of shareholders on such date and at such time as shall be determined from time to time by the board of directors. And at which meeting shareholders shall elect a board of directors and transact any other business as may properly be brought before the meeting. So this complies with Tennessee Code 4817-101 annual meetings. So here I have this note, and it doesn't really state a specific time when these meetings need to be held, but that can be determined by the corporation, by the board of directors, once those have been elected. Okay, so that complies. Section 3 talks about special meetings, and they may be called at any time by the president or the board or shareholders, the shareholders who hold at least 10% of the issued and outstanding voting stock. So this complies with Tennessee Code 4817-102, which talks about special meetings. And I believe it complies. So it talks about 10%, the shareholders holding at least 10% of all votes. And talks about how they can be called by the board or a person authorized to do so, calling a special meeting, that is. Notice of meetings. This section complies with 4817-105A about a corporation shall notify shareholders of the date, time, and place of each annual and special shareholders meeting no fewer than 10 days, nor more than 2 months before the meeting. So I have here written notice of any meeting shall be given not less than 10 and not more than 60 days before the date of the meeting. So this section complies with 4817-105. Section 5 talks about quorums at meetings, and I believe that this section complies with 4817-203, which states that which talks about, 4817-203 talks about proxies and how a shareholder can vote by proxy. Quorum at meetings, I had a hard time understanding what constitutes a quorum, so Ms. Murphy, you're going to need to help me a little bit on this section. Proxies, again, a shareholder can vote by proxy, which complies with the statute I just mentioned. Specifically, a duly elected proxy shall be irrevocable if it states that it is irrevocable, which complies with law. And then an appointment is valid for only 11 months unless another period is expressly provided. So that's 4817-203 again. So this complies with that statute. And then I wasn't quite sure what interests were, but I have what an appointment coupled with an interest include the appointment of. So I'm not quite sure about what these are, but Ms. Murphy, I have it listed there for you to go over. Okay, voting at meetings. If a quorum exists, action on a matter is approved if the votes cast favoring the action exceeds the votes cast opposing the action, which, obviously that's how voting works. So I have 4817-206 listed as a statute that talks about quorums and voting, and I believe that this section complies with that statute. Again, Mrs. Murphy, I'm going to have you make sure everything I have listed here is true about complying with these statutes that I have listed off to the side. Okay, a list of shareholders. I have listed here that the list of shareholders, it needs to be prepared at least 10 days before any meeting, but I couldn't find that anywhere in the statute that talks about the list of shareholders. So I have I don't think this is statutorily required, but I have it there just because I'm sure having a list of shareholders 10 days before is a helpful thing. Okay. The list shall be open to the examination of any shareholder for any purpose germane to the meeting during ordinary business hours for a period of at least 10 days before the meeting. I have a note here that says the statute really only says that it needs to be available for examination 2 days before the meeting, but 10 days seems pretty reasonable and gives people enough time to examine the list. The list shall be produced and kept available at the time and place of the meeting for the entire duration of the meeting and may be inspected by any shareholder. And according to the statute, that also it can be inspected by either an agent or attorney, not just the shareholder. But I just put shareholder in here, but it could be any agent or attorney if you want to change that. Consent in lieu of meetings. I believe this section complies with Tennessee Code 4817-104. Consent can be given by writing any action required to be taken or which may be taken at any meeting of shareholders may be taken without a meeting, without prior notice, and without vote if consent in writing. Okay, moving on from consent in lieu of meetings, I have the statute 4817-04 here. I'm pretty sure this whole section applies. I won't go through it here for brevity's sake. This Zoom call is already getting a little long. Okay, so conference calls, you can participate in a meeting via, electronic means as long as people can hear you and you can hear the other people. That complies with 4817-109. The annual statement, I had a hard time finding any statutes about this. Belinda, I'll need your help here. Okay, moving on to Article 4 about directors. The statute is 4818-103. A board of directors must consist of one or more individuals with the number specified and or fixed in accordance with the charter or bylaws. So I have the number of directors at 2 for Bradley and Cynthia. You can change this if you want more, but I assumed you both would want to be on the board and it just be you two for now. I'm not sure what you want to do there, but I have 2. Each director should be at least 18 years of age, and they don't need to be residents of the state of incorporation, which complies with 4818-102. I have here 3 years as the term. Not sure really what you wanted there, but that is the most amount of years that complies with 4818-15B, which is listed here. You can read this. Okay, nomination process. Belinda, I'll need you and Bradley and Cynthia to go over this together. Vacancies. This section complies with 4818-110. Okay. I had 5 times a year for regular meetings. I couldn't find a statute that required any number of meetings. I just put 5. Not sure what you guys want there, but I just put 5. It seems like a good number. Okay, 2 days notice to each director before special meetings complies with 4818-203. These next couple of sections I had a hard time with. Belinda, I'll need you for these. Consent in lieu of meetings, like before. You can consent without having a meeting. Complies with 4818-202. Conference calls, again, like before, you just need to be you just need to be able to be heard and also hear what everyone else is saying to comply with applicable statutes. Compensation of directors. The board of directors can fix the compensation of the directors. This complies with 4818-111. Removal of any directors. Any director or the entire board may be removed with or without cause by the holders of a majority of the shares then entitled to vote. This complies with 4818-108. Okay, talking about officers. Positions. The officer shall be a chairperson, a president, a secretary, and a treasurer. Any other officers that the board wants, including, a vice president if you want it. This complies with 4818-401. Okay, the chairperson. All of these chairperson, president, secretary, treasurer. All of these are officers, and their descriptions comply with 4818-402. And basically that section just says that the bylaws can pretty much specify what the function of each of these officers is. Okay, the secretary has to take the minutes, is what I have. The minutes have to be taken according to 4818-401C. I have the secretary listed as the person who would take those minutes. It just seemed the best thing to do. Okay. Terms of office, compensation. Okay, so this just talks about what I said earlier. The bylaws can designate who is taking the minutes, and I have the treasurer listed as the secretary as the person who will take those minutes. But the minutes have to be taken by somebody. Okay, capital stock. I gotta be honest, I don't know a lot about stock, and I had a hard time understanding what this was saying. I used the form for these sections, and I didn't really change anything about them, and I had a hard time understanding the statute, so Belinda, I'm going to need you to take over that section. Same with the section about dividends. Belinda, I'm going to need you there. Okay, so general provisions, insurance and indemnity. The corporation may purchase and maintain insurance in a reasonable amount on behalf of any person who is or was a director, officer, agent, or employee of the corporation against liability asserted against or incurred by such person in such capacity or arising from such person's status as such, subject to applicable statute. That statute is 4818-502, and the rest of this seems to comply with that statute, but it just says that any person made or threatened to be made a party to any action, any lawsuit, who is or was a director, officer, agent, or employee of the corporation shall be indemnified by the corporation against the reasonable expenses, including attorney's fees. Okay, that seemed to comply with the statute I just mentioned. Corporate records. Let's see. Yeah, a shareholder can inspect any corporate record, is entitled to inspect any record during regular business hours at the corporation's principal office if the shareholder gives the corporation written notice of the shareholder's demand at least 5 business days, on which he or she wishes to inspect those records. That complies with 4826-102. Okay, fiscal year, obviously, is 1 calendar year, and y'all's year ends on December, as I went over in the Articles of Incorporation. Corporate seal needs to be approved by the board of directors. Okay, and I believe that covers all the stuff that I knew what to talk about with or had statutes on the side about. Belinda, obviously I'm going to need your help on a lot of these bylaws, first time writing bylaws, or reviewing bylaws. Okay, once these are approved and once Belinda goes over the sections that I didn't find any statutes about, we will adopt them, put the date there, the secretary will sign them. Obviously this needs to happen after we filed the incorporation after the board of directors has been finalized and the secretary has been picked, she will sign this and print her name. Shareholders' names, I just have you guys listed now because you are the only shareholders as of now. You both have 2,000 shares. And I think that covers everything. Thank you guys for being present for this very long Zoom meeting. And I hope everything is satisfactory. Thank you. Sorry, very lastly, I'm going to go over this cover letter sent to all three of you. You should have read it already. I just kind of goes through in more brevity what I just went through in the Zoom meeting. The corporate charter complied with Tennessee Code Annotated 4812-102. Talks about the business entity search that I ran. Section 3 left blank. Mr. Harris made the registered agent. I provided a link where I found the instructions to the for-profit corporate charter, right? Where it talks about, December being the default year and the filing fees and all of that. Here I have listed again the stuff I talked about with, sorry about the airplane in the background. Okay, it goes over the professional business licensing and how we don't have to do that. Next I talk about mailing or e-filing. That's up to you guys. Application of authority is talked about next. Ran a business entity search on the Arkansas Secretary of State's website. Here we have talked just more about the application. I've already been through that. Talks about the filing fee. I've already been through that. You can either mail it or email it. Also talks about how we need to file the charter first, as I already said, and then the application for authority. Okay, here's the section about corporate bylaws I was a bit brief about because obviously I've talked about that for a very long time already. Belinda, I'm going to need your help on a lot of that. And now I think that covers up the Zoom meeting. Thank you.